Welcome everyone to our first resume building workshop hosted by International Students Connection Club at Foothill College. And today we are so honored and so lucky to have Angel Fong, who is also a UC Berkeley alumni, currently working as a academic HR analyst at UC Berkeley. She will be introducing some important skills and tips when writing the resume to us. Welcome, Angel.
Thank you. Thanks for having me tonight. So again, my name is Angel, and I graduated from UC Berkeley a while back, and I majored in integrated biology and social welfare. And so I'm really glad to meet you guys here. So I currently work in the human resources department for the School of Law, the law school at UC Berkeley. And so I also used to work in and also in the human resources field in many other companies such as Sutter Health, as well as a different department within UC Berkeley. So I have many years of experience, and I just wanted to share a little bit of wisdom in terms of building resume with you guys, knowing that, as college students, I think I also made my very first resume when I was in college. So hopefully this will be helpful for you. Just curious, maybe you can respond in the chat. Like, how many of you actually have a resume? You maybe can say yes or no. Or you can also raise your hand in the, okay. So some of you do, some of you not yet. Okay, awesome. Yeah, so don't feel stressed if you don't have one yet. I would say college is actually a very good time to start building one. Especially because you will be maybe applying to part-time jobs, and I know that many of you are international students. Maybe you're thinking about applying to internships or even volunteering. Resumes are very useful for any of those purposes. So yeah, so that's great. Let me share my screen to begin our presentation today. Screen number 2. Okay. All right, are you guys able to see it? Yeah, cool. Okay, let me actually do full screen. All right, cool. So I just want to say I'm actually volunteering for the International Student Mentorship Program. It's a nonprofit mentorship program for international students across the nation. And so the material that I'm using today actually came from them. So if you're interested, I'll tell you more about the program at the end. So here is the resume workshop. Okay, so this is what I'm gonna go over today. So first, why a resume? Like, what is that for? I'm gonna provide you with some job search statistics in the United States and explain why we need a resume. And number 2, I'm gonna share some practical tips on how to write a resume that stands out. And third, I think for today, due to the sake of time, we might not be able to do this together. Usually if I run this with a one-on-one workshop, then I will usually take a look at their resume. But at the end of the workshop, if you're interested to have me look at your resume, feel free to contact me as well. I can also give you my contact information. Okay. So first, why a resume, and what is a resume anyway? So just out of curiosity, well, not out of curiosity, I'm gonna show you kind of a realistic picture of what job search looks like in America. So in general, for one corporate job, meaning any one job in a large company, in general, if they receive about 250 applications, out of that 250 application, they will only select 4 to 6 people to interview. And that's like out of 250, only 4 to 6 people get to actually speak and present themselves, right, to a company. And then at the end, only one person gets the job. So as you can tell, it's very, very competitive. So before I go to the next one, so that's why it's very important to have a resume, because basically, how do you get from the 250 application to this 4 to 6 interviews? It's your resume. Resume is the tool that you use to get yourself a chance to speak and present and be able to be at that interview, to actually have a face-to-face time with the hiring manager. So this is a trivia question that I was talking about. So how long do you think does a hiring manager or recruiter look at a resume? Maybe you can like chat it out, or you can also just shout it out. Like, is it A, 6 seconds, 20 seconds, 1 minute, or 5 minutes? What are you guys seeing? So 6 seconds, oh, 1 second. That recruiter is very fast. 20 seconds, 6 seconds. Okay, okay. So let me reveal the answer to you. It's actually, it's actually 6 seconds. It's the shortest. And it might be hard to imagine how that could be. And the reason is because these days, large companies, they have different tools that they could use to filter through the resumes that they want to look at. So in other words, there are resumes that they don't even actually look at. So they have tools like word search. They could actually, search through the resume and to see if this person, they will only look at the people whose resume has these keywords or the job skills or special area of knowledge, and then they'll pick those out to look at the resume. And then the way they look at resume is not like us reading a textbook, right? They probably just very quickly skim through it, and therefore it's very fast. The main message is very fast. So that's why you want to build a resume that's very easy to look at and then very succinct. You'll have the main key points very easy to find so that the recruiters will actually take a look at your resume. So even though it sounds kind of intimidating, but there are many ways to do it. So I'm just gonna give you some of the main purpose, so that we can kind of gauge ourselves when we start working on a resume. So first, the purpose of resume is to get an interview, right? Very obviously, we just talked about that. And so the first tip is don't tell your life story. You only got 1 page. And actually, if your resume is more than 1 page, it is often considered kind of unprofessional because the industry standard is about 1 page. And second, you want to highlight the most important point at the top, because remember, they usually just glance at it very quickly, the 6 seconds. Yeah, so you want the most important thing to be at the top so they can see it very quickly. And third, your resume is a commercial about you. So this is a place, if you feel bad about bragging yourself, it's fine to do so on the resume. This is the place to sell yourself. Okay, so now after we talked about the purpose of the resume, I'm going to give you some practical tips so that you can actually start working on your resume. So how do you write a resume that stands out? So this is an example of a good resume from Willis Lin. He's my friend's husband. I don't know why I use his. I guess it's just because it's very straightforward and it's very clean. So the kind of resume that I'm going to be teaching you guys or talking about is chronological resume. It's the most common ones that people use. There are also other types of resume. For example, maybe like a technical resume or skills-based resume. Those are written kind of differently and it's very specific to a certain field. So for example, technical resume is usually used for technical jobs. For example, software engineers or just engineers in general. But here, chronological resume is the most general, so most of the people do it in this format. And the major section of chronological resume is, first you'll have the name section on the top, and you could have a summary section if you would like to. Next, you have an educational section, and then experience. The experience here is mostly talking about working experience. However, if you have volunteer experience that speaks to some of the skills that you want to feature, you can also put on there as well. And then in certain situations where you have specific skills that you want to present, you can also have a section for that. Publications, if you're in the academia, if later on you actually get to participate in certain research or you publish a paper, that's also where you want to feature as well. And on any projects that you want to work on. So again, these are the general sections that people usually have, but you don't have to have every single one of them. It really depends on the kind of skills that you have, the kind of experience that you have, as well as the kind of jobs that you want to apply to. So again, the important point is we want to highlight the relevant qualifications on the top. So this is just one word of advice. I think in general for students, because you guys are in school, I would suggest that right after your name to have education section like this resume. For people who've been working in the industry for many years after, they would actually put their education on the bottom because their school is no longer so, as important as their experiences. But as a student, since you guys are in school, I know that some of you might be planning on transferring and then you want to tell your employer or whichever company that you're applying for your internship to give them a clear picture where you're at in terms of your education. So that's why it's important to have the education on top. Okay, so we're gonna go through section by section so you don't feel so lost. Okay, so first of all, actually, hold on, let me see. Oh, it doesn't have the name section. Okay, I want to go through the name section first because it's actually quite important. So let me move this so it doesn't block your view. So any resume, you will always start with the name section. So what is name section? Basically, it's your name, your full name, and your contact information. It's very important to have your name with a big font. So the font size is generally 24 above, and you want to have your email, phone number, as well as your address, as you can see here. And one important thing about emails is you should try to use a more professional email. So you probably shouldn't use an email that you created back in elementary or middle school, because if it sounds weird, you probably don't want to use that, okay? So that would be my suggestion, okay? And next, this is the summary section. Actually, after working many years in human resources, I would actually advise not to have a summary section because summary or objective, these kind of things, like for example, summary is basically a section where it very succinctly tells people what kind of background you have and what kind of jobs that you're looking for. But these kind of things can actually be easily told through the actual resume later on. And also everyone's objective is to find a job. So this is not so necessary. That's why it's optional. But if you want if you want to write like a short summary of who you are, the kind of experience that you have, you will use that. And it's important to always use quantitative description. So for example, in this one, it tells you this is a senior account executive. It tells you with experience helping companies clean and enrich their data with sales intelligence tools and these specific tools that are marketable. So these are actual tools that people use in this field. And then you want to end with numbers. Numbers are very important because numbers don't lie. You can very easily tell the capacity of a person through numbers. So here it says, I have helped over 200 clients, reduce IT infrastructure overhead by up to 40%. So this is the quantitative description that I'm talking about. Okay. If you have any questions during my presentation, feel free to chat it out and I can also answer as well. So here now we're at probably the most important sections for your resume is the experience section. So again, experience is mostly talking about working experience. So these are some of the important elements and the basic elements that you should have. So first you will have the title experience and you will have the employer listed on top. So for this one, this is UC Irvine Robotics Lab. And then you'll have the city and the state, Irvine, California. And here you'll have, right below it, you will have job title. So for this one, he's a graduate student researcher. And besides the company, the location and the job title, you will also have the month that you work, the month duration that you work at this job. For example, maybe I work from January 2021 through April 2021, then you'll put it there. And then after that, you will have the content, basically trying to, tell the recruiter or the companies what you have done in this job. And I would advise everybody to actually use bullet points. It's the easiest for the recruiters to read. I know that there are some formats out there that some people write paragraphs, but I would say the industry best practice is bullet points. And with the bullet points, you don't want to do more than 4 bullet points because more than 4 is considered a little bit too much. And again, they don't want to read everything. So you want to highlight the most important things. So that's why 4 or fewer is better. Okay. And generally speaking, you want to have your description with a bullet point, right? And then you want to start with the action verb. So for example, in this one, it says, perform research on kinetic system, blah, 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 blah. So you always start with the verb. And if it's your current job, if you're still working at it, then the verb should be present tense. But if it's a past job, like it's your old job, then you will use past tense. Okay, and then besides these most basic points, I want to teach you actually 2 different approaches to write the description that will make your resume look very good. So the first one is using keywords. The second one is achievement-oriented approach. Okay, so what is keywords? So using keywords basically is you have to first examine very carefully the job or the internship that you're applying to. So any job, any internship, they will have job description. So for example, in this one, the project coordinator job description requirement says a team player able to work well efficiently in cross-functional teams. Oh, sorry, with cross-functional teams. So you know this is what they're looking for. So the way to use a keyword approach to write your own resume is because you know that they're looking for a team player and people who are familiar with cross-functional teams, you want to write your description in this way, using the same words that they use in their job description. So you will say, coordinated program meetings with a team of 6 student leads from cross-functional roles, such as marketing, fundraising, operations, etc., and increase weekly attendance by 45%. So here you can see that this person used the exact same word, coordinated, meaning that you work with different people, right, team player, and then the cross-functional roles with 6 student leads. You know, it shows very clearly that this is the kind of experience that they're looking for, working with cross-functional teams. So this is the first approach. The second approach is achievement-oriented resume. Basically, it's to use these 3 elements to basically write out your bullet point. So the first one is, again, using action verb. What action did you take? Second one is job duty. What was your role? And the third one is tangible outcome, number or metric. What was the outcome of that action? So let me give you an example. So this would be an achievement or oriented resume. So it will say develop, which is action verb, new filing and organizational practices. That's the job duty. It tells the recruiter what you were doing. And here's the outcome, saving the company $3 million per year in contracted labor expenses. So here, as you can see, they have numbers, right? $3 million per year. So again, they're always looking for something that they can measure and something that's objective. Yeah, so, but don't get intimidated by these $3 million. I know, like, I don't work with $3 million for sure. So, you know, this is just kind of an example to show you the way that you can write it. And also, because in your resume, you're gonna have multiple bullet points. You don't have to worry about crafting every single bullet points to be with these kind of format. I would say even if you just have 1 or 2 per job, and that would be very good. And I think general rule of thumb is that I think a lot of times people would write their description kind of like a job description. You just kind of list out, oh, I did this, I did that, right? Like perform cashier duty or something, just list it out. But actually a better approach to think about this would be, what are some of the skills? What are some of the transferable skills? For example, if I work at a cashier job, what are the skills that I have that I can use in another job too? So then in that kind of approach, instead of just simply writing out what you did, then you can say, I utilized this specific skills in doing this duty. So this is a better approach to do this. So it goes along with the same kind of approach that I just talked about with the keywords and achievement oriented. So just kind of, it'll be good to kind of keep that in mind. All right, so these are just some last little do's and don'ts with your resume. Do use bullet points or short paragraphs, but again, bullet points is more preferable than paragraphs, I would say. Keep it simple and visually appealing. What that means is, have a very clear format, equal spacings, make sure there's no typos, and then what not to do. Don't make it crowded because that's really hard to read. And don't have spelling or grammatical errors. I have a friend who actually works as a recruiter, and this is what she says. She says that she would actually have 3 different friends look at her resume and then give them $1 for any of the mistakes that they find. So I think that would be a very good practice. You don't want any mistakes to be on there, right? And then lastly, this is kind of counterintuitive. It's actually not a good thing for it to look fancy or have like these colorful borders. I don't know if you guys seen it, but nowadays there's a lot of resume builder online, and then it will have like colors, you will have like fancy pictures, and some people would even put their picture on there. It's actually considered quite unprofessional. So your resume should only be black and white. Not that we don't want you to be creative. It's just that resume is not the outlet to be creative. It's simply a platform for you to showcase your skills and your experiences. So the industry standard is black and white, 1 page, no picture. And in America, because we strive to be to have a hiring process that's equal, having a picture actually kind of defeats the purpose, right? Because people then would discriminate against your either gender, your age, or even race. So this is not something that's recommended. Yeah, definitely do not have your picture on your resume. Okay. Yeah, I think that's pretty much it. I know it's a short presentation. So feel free to let me know if you have any questions or answers. And maybe, Anderson, you can let me know. I do want to kind of tell you guys a little bit about our international student program, but let me know if this is a good time to do it or if I should wait after Q&A.
Yeah, we can go ahead for the ISMP introduction.
Okay. Yeah, sorry, I just want to go through quickly just to tell you a little bit about the program that I'm part of, because I think it's very valuable, especially knowing that international students in the States, it's really hard to kind of get by in life by yourself. And that's why we, as a nonprofit organization, we have this program. So this is the webpage of our program. The URL is internationalmentorship.org. We're basically a nonprofit organization with a mentorship program, and it's completely free. Basically, if you feel like you need help in college, you can actually sign up for free to be paired up with one mentor, and this mentor can actually help you with various aspects of life in America. And so it's actually very flexible in terms of what you would like to talk about. It's not rigid, so I really recommend that. And I want to show you a video. It's kind of like a trailer for our program. So let me show you this video.
We wanted to start the International Student Mentorship Program after meeting many international undergrad and grad students over the years who came to America to study. Going to a foreign country and all the changes that come with it bring a lot of challenges that need extra guidance. My name is Jessica, and I am the president of ISMP. I came to America as an international student, having grown up in Indonesia. Even though English was my first language, there was so much more to adjusting to life in America that I really didn't anticipate when I came for college. From the basics of how to do your laundry to how to respond to friendly strangers who strike up conversations with you, all of these things made me feel anxious. It seemed like people were speaking at a much faster pace than I was used to, and I often couldn't understand jokes fast enough. Add to that the difficulty of keeping up with the college course load, and it just felt like an overwhelming freshman year. But I don't think my experience is unique.
When I first came to America, I had a lot of questions. I was worried about my English because it doesn't sound natural, and I did not know very much about American culture. I also had questions about how to find a job in America, but it was really difficult to find resources for international students. I did not know where to go for help.
International students are hard workers, but that doesn't mean things are easy. It is because of my own personal mentors that I not only avoided a lot of mistakes, but I also gained confidence as they taught me valuable life skills and even prepared me for my future goals by advising me on my resume and my career path.
I originally became an ISMP mentor because I saw the difficulty that many international students had transitioning to studying here in America. My dad came to the US as an international student when I was young, So I got to experience some of that perspective, and I wanted to help with a program that equips students to adapt to life in a new country.
My mentors helped them so much more than just help me improve my English language skills. They have also given me career advice, helped me build good study habits, and drop off supplies during busy times. Finding a mentor was one of the best decisions I made in college.
Helping Danny achieve his goals has been really fulfilling for me as I see him grow from an anxious freshman, uncertain on how to succeed in his time in America, to being much more confident and comfortable, able to thrive both as a student and as a person.
ISMP is about helping students with things like practical workshops for English conversation, college writing, career planning and coaching. But also, our program wants to prepare students for long-term success by developing character and soft skills, things like time management or how to talk to your professor. And at the end of the day, we are passionate about mentorship because we know that these are the global leaders of the next generation.
All right. So let me stop share because that's the end of my presentation. Okay. All right, so you guys are very welcome to sign up for International Mentorship Program if you're interested. Again, thank you, Anderson, for putting the link on the chat. Let me know if you have any questions. Let me post my email as well here. Okay, so I guess I can start answering the questions on the chat. Should I do that? Okay, awesome. So let me read this question so you can see that. First question, is a resume the same as CV? When should we use a CV instead of a resume? So CV is a different kind of format. So it's different from resume, and it's actually very specific to the field. So for example, people in the academia use CV, people like professors or lecturers who are on track to become a professor, because the nature of their work is more intense, as well as it requires a lot more information than just simple experience from a job. They use something like a CV. So a CV is usually more than one page. It would actually have kind of similar. They will have a education, their name, contact information, education, and the list of their experience and publications usually go for 3 to 5 pages because, imagine a professor, right? They probably publish a lot of papers. So it's usually reserved for the academia. Okay. The second question, what kinds of common questions about our resume should we anticipate during an interview? That's a very good question. So I'm not sure if this applies to other countries, but in America, most of the interviews are consisted of behavioral questions. So behavioral question is basically question that asks about a situation, and then you have to be able to tell a story of how you would respond, or maybe from a time in the past that you would respond. So oftentimes people wouldn't ask straight out things from your resume because they could read, they could see that. So the kind of question they ask might be, can you tell me a time when you dealt with a difficult customer? And so from those kind of questions, you see how it's behavioral because, like you had to describe how you reacted to that situation. So then it's actually a time where you can kind of bring your bullet points to life. You can tell a story, showcase your skills, and then show them how you think and what kind of step you took to resolve that situation. So those are the kind of questions that you can expect from an interview. However, depending on the fields, it's really different. For example, I know that most of the technical jobs, a lot of them, for example, for software engineering, they will actually give you a question or like a question or some sort of puzzle to solve, and sometimes it's even kind of like a test. to see if you can actually utilize the kind of language that that you'll be using on the job. And so those are more on the technical side. Yeah. Okay. And then let's see, should I include my volunteer experience on my resume? That's a very good question. So it really depends on the kind of jobs that you're applying to. So let me give you an example. This past month, I mentor a student. So she's in the health field, like pre-health field. And so she's trying to apply to like an internship. And of course, it's health related. However, all of her past jobs were like cashier jobs, right? Like at a restaurant or maybe, yeah, I think she worked at a different boba shop and also like, yeah, just different kind of jobs that are not really related to health at all. So, but then she has volunteer experience that's directly related to the pre-health internship that she was applying for. She actually volunteered at UCSF. She worked with patients, but it's an unpaid experience, right? So should she put it on there? Of course she should, right? So it really depends. I think if you have valuable experience that could showcase your skills, then you should definitely put that on the resume. And also, if you have a lot of job experiences that doesn't relate to the job that you're applying for, then you don't really need to put it on your resume. So this, of course, that has an exception. So I think since you guys are students, it's not so important to have continuity because people understand when you're not working, you're studying, right? But then once you graduate, that's a different story. For example, if you have many jobs in the past and you don't want to put some of them, but if you don't put one of them, it will look like you didn't have a job for 2 years. Then you should put it there. Yeah, but as a student, you don't have that kind of issue. So I would say you can be a little bit more choosy about what to put on your resume. Does that answer your question? I hope it does.
Is there any more questions that you guys can ask Angel? Angel is very professional in this field. So yeah. Angel, I have a question. Do I
Yes.
need to list all the education that I've been to in my resume?
Oh, okay. I think it depends, actually. So I would say once you started working, once you graduated college, anything before college, you shouldn't put on there. Like don't have your high school stuff on there once you graduated college. Since you guys are in college, that is a little bit different. I would say generally though, once you have entered a 4-year college, you probably don't need to put anything about the high school. But if you're still in community college, since that's, the thing that's right before your current stage, you could put that there just to show that you have a high school diploma. Yeah.
Thank you.
Angel.
Yeah.
Yeah. So so is that so we need to like put our grades on resume?
Oh, should you put your grades on resume?
Yeah.
Is that your question? Okay.
Yeah.
That question is a little bit sensitive. I understand. It's okay. My GPA wasn't that great either. Generally speaking, a lot of companies, they want to know your GPA if you're a new graduated person. But I would say anything below a 3.6 is better not to put it on there. This is not to say that you won't be a good worker if you have a GPA below 3.6. I didn't have a GPA below above 3.6 actually, but it's just that, again, resume is something to highlight what you're good at. So you will probably only want to put it if you have a good GPA. And then if you have a GPA that's below 3.6, I would say to not put it on there. And if they want to know, they will request for it and then you can let them know. Yeah.
Okay, great. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Okay. There's another question. How can I make sure my resume stands out? Are there any immediate turnoffs for the recruiters? Yeah, a lot of things that we talked about, the do's and don'ts, those are the immediate turnoffs. So if you have a lot of spelling errors, if your formatting is weird, things are not aligned and it's all over the place, if it's too crowded, those are definitely turnoffs for the recruiters. I think the way to make your resume stand out is to have those basics down. So the do's and don'ts, have those down. And also, if you have the time to be able to craft your description and also have other people look at it, it's really helpful, especially to have people who are already working. Let's say if you have family, friends, or even your parents who are already working, generally they have a pretty good sense as well to just be able to catch different things. So I would say that. And I think lastly, I think this applies probably more towards like if you have like specific skills that you can feature. I know that for software engineers, for example, they would actually have a section for skills, and it's usually right after their education. And they will write out all the, the coding language they know, or anything that's relevant to the kind of jobs that they're applying for. So those kind of things also stand out because again, they, these days they use a lot of like keyword word search technology. So that's the first thing that they can catch. But if you're not like a software engineers, I know that sometimes with these resume builders, they will have different soft skills listed as skills. For example, a great team player or communication skills, things like that. I would say not to put those kind of soft skills because it's not measurable. Like if you tell me that you're a great communicator, how do I know, right? But those sections are reserved for actual tools. For example, I know at Microsoft Word, like I can put it on there. I know at Adobe Photoshop, those I can put on there. So those are another thing that will make your resume stand out, especially if you have the tools that the recruiters are looking for.
Well, yeah, thank you so much, Angel. Like so suddenly I got another question. Is like, so depends on what kind of job I'm like applying for. Like, should I also like create different version of my resume?
Yeah, you can. Actually, of course, I think it's recommended to do so, but I know that not everyone have the time to do that. But what you can do is, for example, if you're just looking for two different types of like two different maybe fields of job, you could create like one specifically for this kind of job and one specifically for that kind of job. So for example, I can give you an example. So for example, even in the field of human resources, there are many different tracks, right? You can be a recruiter, you can be a generalist, and you can be like a benefits specialist kind of person. And each of the track would have different kind of skill set, right? So for example, if I want to look for maybe generalist position and benefits position, then it's helpful to actually have two versions of the resume. So depending on what job that I'm applying for, I would upload the one that's more relevant.
Yeah, I think, yeah, thank you so much for sharing. And also like, let me, okay, so yeah, so I think I have other questions regarding like behavioral questions? Like when we're, yeah, that's what I because I've like basically I got like one pass about for my resume, but like for the when they got to like ask me questions, I just like got like very
nervous.
Yeah, just like I'm not very fully prepared. Although like I have already like write a lot like on my resume, I just like I think I don't know what's the strategy to prepare like for behavioral questions. If like you will maybe share your experiences, that will be very great help.
I think this might be a good second workshop because it's not something I can answer in a very short period of time. But I'm so glad that you asked that questions because sometimes you can feel like, oh, I did my resume, I'm kind of done, right? But actually interviews you do need to prepare for it, and there are ways to prepare for it. And there's also different strategy to prepare for interviews. So I'll just quickly mention there's a method called the STAR method, STAR. You can probably Google it. You'll probably be able to find it. But basically, it's like a storytelling kind of method where it helps you kind of write out your story. So for example, how I used to prepare for my interview is I would actually write it out and then I will actually rehearse it with somebody. And so, because these questions are very general, if you just Google behavioral interview questions, you can find them online, and people actually do use them, and they all kind of fall into general categories that are kind of the same. Like, how do you deal with like really difficult person? What do you do when you're in a conflict? So these are kind of similar, in which you can kind of prepare for using the STAR storytelling method. Yeah, maybe we can save that for another time. Okay, I think there's also, yeah, no problem. And then there's another question. Is it recommended to have a LinkedIn page at college level now? Yeah, I would think so. I think a lot of people have LinkedIn, and then LinkedIn is a very flexible tool. Even if you don't have working experience, you can put volunteer experience. So I think it's helpful to have that for sure. Let's see.
Like talk about LinkedIn, like can we connect you?
Oh, yes, of course. Yes, my name is Angel Fong. You'll be able to find me. Feel free to connect with me. Yes. Okay. Another question, is also recommended to include the languages that were fluent in the resume? Yes, that would be in your skills section.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
I have another simple question.
Yeah, go ahead.
So the resume we're preparing right now is the college level resume, right? It's not a job opportunity level resume. So should it be different in a way that we are in a college? And because I did create a resume, and I also did all the things that you asked not to do. Yeah, putting the photos, but that was because normally for job, when I apply to job, I actually do as what you said during this seminar. But the thing is, this year when I was applying to the university, I was applying as an art major, so I thought it would be better if I become more creative. So that's why I actually had a resume that has colors and stuff, which this was also my first time trying it. But should it be different in a way that should we distinguish between them, or that's the part that I'm confused? And because we have different majors, and for all these STEM majors, it should be actually simple that I know of it. But if you're applying as an art major or something very creative, then I was just kind of confused on how I should create the resume.
Yeah, be honest with you, I'm not sure about resume, if you're using that for school, like to apply to art school. But I do know that even in the corporate world, let's say if you're applying to be a designer, for example, the general rules will apply. For example, you can have pictures and graphics, but not like a picture of yourself. Usually in the corporate world, what you will have is something called a portfolio. So the creative stuff, the project you work on will kind of go there. In terms of resume, because I'm not an expert in the artistic field, so I wouldn't say much about that. But that's kind of all I know. I know that even with my friends who are designers, their resumes still follow generally the same format. But I think there probably would be a difference if you're applying to a school. Yeah.
Okay. So, but it's better to keep it all same regardless of the level of that you're applying.
I think be honest, I don't really know in terms of the artistic field. My general sense that it's better to keep it the same, but I can find out for you. Maybe I can try to reach out to my recruiter friends to see if there's an industry standard for maybe artistic things. Because I do have a friend who's she's a graphic designer. I have seen her resume. It has colors and pictures, but it still follows the general rule that we talked about today.
Okay.
But I do recognize that it's not just black and white. Like her resume has colors.
Yeah, mine also has colors. Everything's I don't know.
Yeah, so I think if your field is more in the arts field, I think that might be a little bit different. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, basically I have 2 resumes right now for STEM courses, and the articles is. So like, I'll just keep that. Anyways, okay.
Yeah,
Thank you. That was very clear.
no problem.
Is there any questions that you guys want to ask Angel? Shout them out, or just write in the chat.
You can also email me. I put my email in the chat as well. If you have specific questions or if you want me to review a resume, I'm happy to help.
So if there's no question, maybe we can conclude this workshop. Thank you so much, Angel, for spending around 45
Thank
minutes
you.
to give us a workshop today. It was very informative, and I'm very glad to have you as my mentor in ISMP as well. And guys, next in another 2 weeks, we're gonna have a UC Berkeley alumni, Angel Fong. He is also my mentor in ISMP. So he will be teaching us giving us a workshop about American culture and also English corner. So if you guys are interested, please join. It's just next 2 weeks. I think the week after next week. I think it's also the Friday, and the timing should be the same. So thank you guys all for joining today, and have a great weekend.
Thank you for having me. Nice to meet you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you guys.
Thank you.
Recording.